Okay, now we're going to talk about the last kingdom, protista. Well, not the last kingdom, but the last kingdom that we're going to discuss that causes diseases. It's the protista kingdom. These are eukaryotes, which means that their cells have a nucleus in them. Their cells have a place to house the chromosomes. The protista is kind of the catch-all kingdom because anything that did not fit into the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, the fungi kingdom, eubacteria or archaebacteria was thrown into this kingdom. And there is talk of splitting this kingdom up into 3 different kingdoms. So down the road there may be, instead of 6 kingdoms, there actually may be 8 kingdoms. So it's the catch-all kingdom. Some characteristics of protists: they may be unicellular or possibly multicellular. They can be autotrophs, which means they use the sun or chemicals to make energy, or heterotrophs, which means they have to go out and eat food to make their energy. They can be plant-like, animal-like, or fungi-like. They can be microscopic or large, hence uni or multicellular. Can move by using cilia, flagella, by changing shape, or possibly not move at all. They can be found in water, on land, fresh water, or the ocean, which is salt water. So basically, like I said, it's the catch-all kingdom. Things that did not fit with animals, plants, fungi, or any of the bacteria were just thrown into this category, the protistas. How are they all alike then? They are all eukaryotes and do not fit into any other kingdom. 3 main groups of protists. There's the protozoa, or the protozoans, which are the animal-like protist. They're like animals, but they're unicellular. There's the algae group, or the plant-like protist. They're like plants, but have no organs like roots, stems, or leaves. And then there's the slime molds, or mildews, which are the fungi-like protist. They're like fungi, but can move around at some point in their life. We're going to first talk about the protozoans, or the animal-like protist. They're all unicellular. They feed on organisms and dead matter, so they're heterotrophic, meaning they have to get food. Examples are amoebas, Plasmodium vivax, abbreviated P. vivax, and that should actually be in italics because that is a scientific name. And then there's Paramecium. Paramecium, amoeba are just common names. And as you can see, the P. vivax is the protist that causes malaria. Okay, we're going to first talk about amoeba. They are the shapeless protozoans. They're one-celled. They are known as pseudopod formers. Pseudopod means false foot. Pseudo is false, pod is foot. So these are false foot formers. And they use their pseudopods to move. They also use their pseudopods to capture food, as you can see in that bottom right-hand picture. So they have the ability to surround food, take it in to a food vacuole, digest it, and then they're constantly pumping out water because they also have a water vacuole. So they have to, that homeostasis, taking in water and then releasing it right away. When amoebas encounter prey, it moves by changing shape and oozing to the food, surrounds the food, and then captures it using its pseudopod and then digesting it. Okay. The second type of protozoan are something called zooflagellates. These move around by using their flagella. Just like the amoebas use pseudopods, zooflagellates use their flagella. One example is something called T. calaris. It is a protozoan that uses the flagella to move. T. calaris lives in the guts of termites. As it's sitting in the gut of termites, it's breaking down wood. Without the T. calaris, termites would not get nutrition it needed to survive. Okay, so the T. calaris is in the gut of the termite, breaking down the wood. And if you don't know, termites eat wood. If the T. calaris was not there, the termite would eat the wood, would not be able to break it down and get nutrition from the wood, and actually starve to death. In turn, the T. calaris is getting food and a place to live. The relationship between the T. calaris and the termite is known as a symbiotic relationship. A symbiotic relationship is a close relationship between 2 organisms. Again, Symbiotic relationship is a close relationship between two organisms. There are three types of symbiotic relationships. This one is mutualism. Mutualism is with both organisms help each other out. The T. calaris breaks down food so the termite gets nutrition. The termite gives the T. calaris food and a home to live in. Mutualism, helping each other out. The other two examples for symbiotic relationship are parasitism, where the parasite gets help and the host is harmed, and then there's something called commensalism, where one organism gets help but nothing ever happens to the other organism. These three symbiotic relationships are going to come up again when we talk about ecology. Mutualism, parasitism, commensalism. Mutualism, helping each other out. Parasitism, the host gets help, or the host gets harmed, the parasite is helped. Commensalism, one organism is helped out, but nothing happens to the other organism, good or bad. Cilia. An example of a ciliate is a paramecium. They move around by using cilia. Underneath each cilia is something called a trichocyte, which kind of projects out and captures food and helps defend them. And then we have the last type of protozoan, or animal-like protist. It's the sporozoans. An example is that Plasmodium vivax, which can be abbreviated capital P period vivax. This is the spore that causes malaria. It is spread by the Anopheles female mosquito. These spores invade red blood cells, and in there, the red blood cells, they reproduce. Malaria produces chills and fever. When these spores and these toxins get released into the body, the fever and chills occur. So it's the spores and toxins that actually causes the fever that the person gets from malaria. More than 2 million people every year die from malaria. Again, it's spread by the mosquitoes. It is caused by the spore, or the sporozoan P. vivax, which is a protist. Eradication of malaria has centered on the destruction of the mosquito, but as we discussed earlier, you destroy mosquitoes by using insecticides. It does not kill all the mosquitoes, so you have them reproducing, making more baby mosquitoes. These baby mosquitoes become immune to the insecticides, and after year after year after year of doing this, you have thousands of mosquitoes resistant to the pesticide. So then you have a whole population of pesticide-resistant mosquitoes, which has led to the reemergence of malaria in the population. Because at one point they sort of had it under control, but now it's a huge problem throughout the world. And this diagram is showing you how mosquitoes spread this disease from person to person. In the next slide, we're going to talk more about this. So how malaria gets spread from person to person. First, the mosquito bites a person and injects an anticoagulant into that person. Anticoagulant allows your blood to flow. It stops your blood from coagulating or clotting. So first the mosquito has to inject this anticoagulant into you so your blood flows through freely so the mosquito can suck your blood. As it's doing this, this injection carries lots of spores that are in an amoeboid stage, like the amoeba, the blob. Okay, so it's injecting this anticoagulant, also putting these spores in the body. These amoeboid spores make their way through the blood and then into the liver. Once in the liver, these amoeboid spores go through asexual reproduction, in other words, mitosis, over and over and over and over again. So now you have lots of new spores, then from the liver will re-enter the bloodstream, and once they're in the bloodstream, they'll reproduce again simultaneously, all at once, which causes the red blood cells to burst or to rupture and then release toxins throughout the host body. These toxins produce the fever and chills. So they'll have fever and chills for about a day, then they start to get better. Then they'll have fevers and chills again, then they'll start to get better. And then fever and chills again. So it kind of depends on the species of the mosquito. But every 48 to 72 hours, these toxins will be released. Now at this point, some of those spores that were released will change into gamete-forming cells. Remember, a gamete is an egg or a sperm? So it's an egg or sperm forming cell. But they can't actually form that gamete while they're in the human bloodstream. So as female mosquitoes feed on the blood of human, it takes some of those gamete-forming cells with it. Now these gamete-forming cells are back in the mosquito. The gamete-forming cells now can mature into female and male cells, eggs and sperm, join in fertilization to produce an amoeboid spore. And this process then will start all over again. So amoeboid spores can't form gamete-forming spores unless they're in the human. And gamete-forming spores can't turn into gametes unless they're in the mosquito. So both mosquito and humans are needed in order for malaria to actually be spread. So if we got rid of the mosquito, you're going to have that part wiped out. Or if you got rid of humans, which I hope doesn't happen, would also wipe out malaria. That is it for today.